the reigning, defending, undisputed AFC South champions for the last 2 years, and that is the Tennessee Titans. And for the Titans, well, it's kind of interesting where they're at this point. You win 2 AFC South titles, but you don't really do anything with them in the playoffs when it matters most. And that was the case in 2021. You went 12-5, your best record since 2008. And that was despite losing your MVP in Derrick Henry for the back half of the season. And Ryan Tannehill, he does pretty okay. AJ Brown, and company, they're doing pretty good. They're battling injuries, but that pass rush is holding serve, and they managed to clinch the AFC South and the AFC's top seed after beating the Houston Texans in Week 18. But pretty much all of that, and Henry's return in the divisional game against the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as a 9-sack sandwich on Joe Burrow, was all outdone. It was all for nothing because Ryan Tannehill choked. He choked. He threw 3 game-changing interceptions, 1 to start the game, and a third one to end the game, pretty much ending Tennessee's chances to seal the game. And just like in 2008, when they had the top seed, they lose their first game on a field goal. And that's as the top seed. They lose that game against the Bengals in disappointing fashion. Now, who knows if they would have had a chance against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. But sure, home field advantage matters. But the way they played in that divisional game, it certainly looked like they wouldn't. It certainly looked like they would have. Now, your goal for 2022, if you're the Tennessee Titans, is to strap up, reload, and make a much better playoff run with Ryan Tannehill and that key offense. Now, looking at some of their offseason signings, their re-additions, their losses, whether it's in free agency and the draft, they did get some shit done. You get your key piece from that pass rush outside linebacker Harold Landry to a massive extension. You also signed the center Ben Jones, key part of that offensive line. Kicker Randy Bullock is back with the team. Greg Mabin's there in the secondary, the corner. And you got some new people too. Tackle Jamarco Jones from the Seattle Seahawks is going to play guard. So a solid piece, a solid addition to the offensive line. Tight end Austin Hooper from the Cleveland Browns. He's solid as well. Maybe he provides that option that Tennessee desperately needs in the middle, in the receiving game. And they traded for receiver Robert Woods from the LA Rams in return for a 6th-round pick. Robert Woods is coming off and tore ACL, so Tennessee's got to keep that in mind. Who knows if he's going to be ready for the season. Now, they did lose guards Roger Saffold, a very key piece in that offensive line, and as well as David Quisenberry to the Buffalo Bills. Both of them to the Buffalo Bills. So Josh Allen, not Ryan Tannehill, is getting some key pieces up east. So they also lost linebacker Rashawn Evans to the Atlanta Falcons, as well as they also released Julio Jones in free agency. So looking at some of their draft picks, this was a very surprising move when this happened. Like when we reached the 18th pick, the Tennessee Titans were on the board, and the reason why it was being, they traded away AJ Brown, their top receiver in that offense. They traded him away to the Philadelphia Eagles for that 18th pick and a 3rd-round pick. Like, my thought process was like, why did they do that? Like, why the hell do you trade away your top receiver to another team? And, of course, the thinking was money. Yeah. AJ Brown wanted that fat contract extension, and Tennessee probably didn't have it for him. So they let him seek a trade, or maybe he wanted to trade, and they let him get it. And off he went to Philadelphia. So how did they address that in the draft? Well, they went out and got his replacement in Arkansas's receiver Treylon Burks, who, when I saw that draft footage on draft night, he looks pretty good. He just needs some time to develop in that offense. So it's probably not going to be something that catches right in our eyes this year, but he will be something. They also got a corner from Auburn by the name of Roger McCreary. They also got a tackle by the name of Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State. So another key piece for that offensive line. They definitely need it. But the biggest move that they made in that draft in the third round was getting a quarterback. Yes, they literally got a quarterback by the name of Malik Willis. Yes, they actually did it. Like, of all teams, to go out and get a quarterback, to get out and get Malik Willis was the Tennessee Titans. Like, this is surprising to many. And we found out that he could potentially replace Ryan Tannehill. It's really weird. Because, Malik Willis, when he was in college, he was a scrambler. His ball placement, his throwing was all right. Especially when he played in Liberty. When I watched his tape, when I was preparing for the Filthy Casual preview, he was playing against easy competition. So it's gonna take some time if the long-term plan is to have Malik Willis replace Ryan Tannehill. It's definitely going to take him some time for him to develop in the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. So Ryan Tannehill, speaking of, is officially on a medium spicy seat. He's on that, when you go to a Wingstop or Buffalo Wild Wings and you ask, what kind of sauce do you want? I want that medium level spice. I'm not at the atomic wing spice just yet. My seat's not there yet. I'm at medium level. And that's exactly what Ryan Tannehill is feeling with the Heat. Because if he doesn't do well at any point this season, then who knows? Maybe Mike Vrabel, their head coach, will put in Malik Willis, whether he's ready or not. So we'll see what happens there. But Ryan Tannehill he's got a lot to prove this season. He really does, because that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as for a good portion of the back half of the season, he threw a lot of self-inflicted turnovers throughout that season, and they were not good ones. It cost the Tennessee Titans some games that they could have won. So there was a running back that the Tennessee Titans drafted in day 3. It was by the name of Michigan running back Hassan Haskins. Now, he's a solid pickup, and he could be a good option if Derrick Henry is out for like any portion of the season. He's kind of solid, but who knows? Maybe he could turn out to be something great in case Henry goes down. Now, for Julio Jones, unfortunately, this might be his swan song, because the tenure in Tennessee was bad. It was not good at all, because he just couldn't stay healthy. He didn't have that explosiveness that he once had. So, in either way, Ryan Tannehill was always deferring to A.J. Brown anyway. So, it just didn't work out. It just simply didn't work out for Julio Jones in Tennessee. So, who knows if he's going to play again for another team in 2022, or he might just call it a career. But Julio Jones is one of the best receivers in football, but unfortunately, his injuries just derailed him in 2021. Now, look at some of the key games in 2022 for Tennessee. You look at week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. That Monday night game in prime time, it's going to be a big test for them. It's going to be a big test for Ryan Tannehill, for Derrick Henry against that improved Buffalo defensive line, and it's going to also be a kind of a test for the Titans pass rush against the Bills. Additions to the offensive line. Can they get to Josh Allen? That's going to be remain to be seen. Then weeks 3 and 4, you return home to face the Las Vegas Raiders and their new receiver Devontae Adams, and then week 4 you go to Indianapolis to face Matt Ryan and the Colts. So those are some tough games there. And then the month from hell in midway through the season, you get weeks 9 to 13. The odd weeks, you get to go to Kansas City to face Patrick Mahomes. You get to go to Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And then you go to Philadelphia to face the three-headed dragon in a potential revenge game for A.J. Brown and his new teammates, Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. Oh, boy. Oh, mama. That's going to be a spicy game for Tennessee. And then between all that, at home, it's not good. It's not easier. You get the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson in week 10. And then in week 12, a rematch of the divisional game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yikes. Yikes. This is the scheduling god did not favor the Tennessee Titans at all. At all. So for the Tennessee Titans, does Ryan Tannehill keep his starting job for the whole season? Because Tannehill's not outright terrible. He's just turnover prone. He is turnover prone, and he makes a lot of weird decisions with the football, especially when it came to that 2021 season. So it remains to be seen if at any point Malik Willis comes in to start for Ryan Tannehill or midway into a game for Ryan Tannehill. Now, there were questions about corner Caleb Farley last year, and unfortunately, he only played a handful amount of games before he got sidelined with an ACL tear. Now, can he play this year? Can he stay healthy? Can he be that key piece in the secondary that the Titans are looking for desperately? Hopefully he does well. He does well. He proves a good amount of people wrong. And becomes a cornerstone piece in that defense. Now, as for losing A.J. Brown, they added Treylon Burks. They got Robert Woods. But are those additions going to be enough for the Tennessee Titans? Time will tell. It's not going to be an instant fix, but time will tell. So for the Tennessee Titans, they lost a good amount of players in the offseason, especially in that offense. And I'm not even sure that, those additions of Robert Woods and Treylon Burks is going to be enough to offset losing A.J. Brown, because A.J. Brown was a good receiver. And the offensive line, who knows how that's going to hold up. That pass rush led by Harold Landry is still going to be relentless. It's still going to be damn good. But there's just a lot of questions about this Tennessee Titans team. Are they going to regress? And I think they are. I think that it's going to be a big challenge for them, especially when you get to that weeks 9 to 13 slate. That is going to be a massive gauntlet that could eventually derail their season, because they are very tough teams. They're going to be very tough teams. Again, things can change. But for the Tennessee Titans, they kind of lost some talent that could break their season at the midway point. So when looking at them, you could be looking at 7 to 9 wins. I hate to say it. And sure, maybe they can have an outside chance of winning the AFC South against the Indianapolis Colts, pending on if the Colts don't do well. But it's just rough. It is really, really rough for the Tennessee Titans, and it's going to feel that way this coming fall.